Yeah, so that's why.
Good evening, Littleton. Good evening. Welcome to the select board meeting for Monday, January 27th. We'll begin with the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So we have a fairly full agenda after the reading of the mail. We have a bunch of department updates, conservation, recognizing Amy Green for her pending retirement, appoint Tim Pearson as new conservation agent, town clerk recommendations for the report dedications, presentation from sustainability, presentation from cultural council, Littleton Country Gardeners request to use the common, and an affordable housing trust update to the select board. At 7:15, we'll be having a joint meeting with the Conservation Commission to talk about the parcel 107 and the Nugget Hill Orchard. 7:45, we'll have public input and select board updates. At 8 o'clock, we'll have select board discussions, executing a new contract for the King Street Commons public infrastructure, update on the charter committee, and vote to authorize the town administrator to execute a contract for Green International. Followed by minutes approval and 8:50 adjournment. So let's start with the mail.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the select board. We've got some vacancies that we would love, and opportunities for people to with their input and some of the expertise. We have openings on Agricultural Commission, Conservation, Cultural, Economic Development Committee, Historical Commission, the Master Plan Implementation Committee, Permanent Municipal Building Committee, Transportation Advisory Council, Zoning Board of Appeals, and an appointment by the school committee would be for the Finance Committee. Please sign up and receive public notifications for the town of Littleton. You can register at www.littletonma.org/subscribe. Get community impacts, public safety activity, transportation issues, town meeting changes, public health concerns, town events. Stay informed. We are in receipt from a letter from FEMA that to notify the town that final flood has a determination for Middlesex County, Massachusetts. And it's a statutory 90-day appeal period that was initiated for the community when the Department of Homeland Security, FEMA, published a notice of proposed flood hazard determinations for our community in the local newspaper. And that is the regulations, it's amending existing regulations to incorporate any additional requirements under 44 CFR Part 60.3D, adopting all standards of 44 CFR Part 60.3D into one new comprehensive set of regulations, or showing evidence that regulations have previously been adopted that met or exceeded the minimum requirements of 44 CFR Part 60.3D. That we would, part of this is to final summary of MAP actions to assist our community in maintaining the flood insurance rate map. Summarized below the effects of the revised firm handles on previously issued letter of map change. And there were no cases recorded on the project identifier. And there's a number of different actions, final summary on map actions for that. Next communication, we have Xfinity to the select board, committed to keeping you and their customers informed about changes to Xfinity TV services. Accordingly, please note the following changes to the Xfinity channel lineup provided in your community effective January 14th. Nesson and Nesson Plus will move from extra, popular TV, sports, news, and Xfinity TV starter, Latino or digital preferred, and Ultimate TV. Customers are receiving notices of these changes in their bill.
That's a money grab.
Department of Public Utilities. It is a request for comments and data. in regards of the next several years. Substantial electric distribution and broadband infrastructure investments are planned in the Commonwealth. Many of these investments will require work and access along public right-of-ways. In particular, work involving utility poles and potential access to ducts and conduit. Let me see, and moving forward, the notice continues, a notice of inquiry request for comments. This was something was dated on January 17th. The Department of Public Utilities and the Department of Telecommunications and Cable jointly issued an order opening an inquiry to explore utility pole attachment, conduit access, double pole related considerations. Okay, and that's it for mail. Thank you.
Moving on to department updates, recognition of Amy Green for her pending her retirement.
You say that.
Huh? Yeah. So Amy, I believe, is retiring at the end of February, if we let her. And you have
I do.
a list of her accomplishments?
Well, we have a few things that over the 10 years that Amy has worked for the town, some highlights of the success and what she has done for this community over the past 10 years. She has won nearly $1 million in grant funding over the course of those 10 years. That is no easy feat. She permitted and supported countless boardwalks, kiosks, and parking improvements on open space conservation land properties, established guidance for lakeshore projects that require permitting, including docks, reviewed all town parcels with assessors, planning board, and Parks and Rec to determine accuracy of ownership and best use, researched all the conservation restrictions in town and set up annual monitoring, drove the acquisition of several very important parcels of land for conservation and passive recreational uses, including Browns Woods, Webster Land, and Williams Land, significantly expanded the town's relationship with two vital conservation organizations, the Littleton Conservation Trust, the Sudbury Valley Trustees, established and led community-focused conservation programs, including the Weed Warrior Program, which trains residents to identify and remove invasive species. The Amphibian Crossing Program has saved upwards of 1,000 amphibians each year from road strikes, and the Pollinator Gardens. Amy's developed a culture in the conservation that balances adherence to standards that protects our wetlands, water, and ecological resources with service to residents who are working in good faith to meet those goals. Amy was instrumental in crafting our wetlands protection bylaw. In addition to all those accomplishments, Amy is an open and patient teacher, assisting new commissioners to gain a deeper understanding of the Conservation Commission missions. Over her career with Littleton, she has guided 14 conservation commissioners, many more associate members, and one new town administrator. So, but there are some things that are right there, but very, very impressive stuff. And it's been an honor for the short time that I have been here, Amy, to working with you, and you've taught me a lot and helped me appreciate so much in the conservation world. And I sincerely appreciate that. Thank you.
So Amy, nearly $1 million or over $1 million? I thought you weren't allowed to retire until it was over $1 million. It's over. Okay, just to be clear.
$1,000,001.
So I have a certificate here of recognition. The Littleton Select Board recognizes Amy Green in recognition of your 10 years of loyal and exceptional service to the town of Littleton, January 27th, 2015 to February 27th, 2025. So you have an end date. Thank you for your professionalism and dedication in protecting the natural resources of the community.
Picture time.
Used to acknowledge that you're not.
We didn't know a lot more if you made me stay. Okay, everybody. That sounds fun. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
And now to the new Amy. Appoint Tim Pearson as the conservation agent. Does the conscom want to say anything or?
Does Tim want to say anything?
Sure. Chase Garbig, co-chair of the Littleton Conservation Commission. Was it about a week ago, we voted to appoint Tim to the conservation agent role. Tim's been with us for a few years now. He has a couple of years of experience prior to that doing arborist work. I think we're really lucky to have Tim. He's both grown up sort of working underneath Amy to learn and grow both his technical capabilities as well as his knowledge of the community. We're really excited to be able to bring Tim on board at the full-time conservation agent role and really sort of marry his experience recently working at Light and Water with his assistant agent role and sort of grow his capabilities and grow his support of the community. So we think he'll fill the role quite admirably in so much as anyone can fulfill Amy's shoes.
David, you want to say anything? Come on up.
Gotta get used to the mic.
First, I'd just like to thank Amy for molding me into the conservation professional that I am today. I wouldn't be nearly the person I am today without her. I'm honored to fulfill her position. They're pretty big shoes to fill. I look forward to supporting the Conservation Commission and serving the residents of the town of Littleton as well as the town themselves. So thank you.
Welcome. Move that the select board vote to appoint Tim Pearson as conservation agent, effective upon the retirement of the current conservation agent on February 27th, 2025.
Second.
Moved by Matthew, second by Karen. All those in favor?
Aye. Well,
Congratulations.
get sworn in.
Town clerk.
Good evening. Thank you for having me. Every year I come before you for the dedication of the town report. This year we're looking at 4 residents for the dedication and 3 honorable mentions. The first one is Alice Schimmel, who worked for the town for almost 30 years. She touched the lives of thousands of children in this town and put a smile on faces every day. They have named the lunchroom the Schimmel Shack. I don't know if any of you know the lunchroom down there, but they did name it that. Her dedication to the students and teachers alike, though she was battling cancer herself, she was making handmade pillows for breast cancer patients at Emerson Hospital and made sure each week her husband, Jack, delivered them to all the patients. David Whitcomb passed away this last year as well. He was a great historian. If you ever get a chance to sit down and have a conversation with David, he could go on for hours and hours about our history, history of his own family. At the tercentenary, David gave a great talk at the lunchroom and had wonderful, wonderful pictures. He's done calendars of Littleton's beautiful history, lots of the buildings in Littleton, some of the beautiful pictures around town of just our buildings, as well as just the beautiful sights in Littleton. He was a great historian, and a lot of our history went away when he passed last year, and there's nobody that can actually express as much about Littleton as he could. Barbara Homer, if you know Barbara Homer, she's AKA Barbara Kimball of the Kimball Farm. And though Kimball's was in Westford, a lot of people say that Kimball was part of Littleton. And she expressed that each and every day. She was our Littleton connection to Westford. And she actually was on many, many boards and committees back in the day. And Eunice Matheson, our final person for dedication, is the last living survivor of her graduating class of LHS. I believe it was 1944. I have to double check that year. And she was the matriarch of the family-owned and run Springbrook Farm that was has been operating since 1713, long before Littleton, the year before Littleton was actually incorporated. So she was around for a long time. Honorable mention, another farmer, Gary Wilkins, owner and operator of Gary's Farm Stand. He will be remembered not only for his contributions to the local agriculture, but for his kindness that extended to others. George Sanders actually made a comment to me and said that when he first moved to Littleton, that Gary used to put out a box at his farm that if you didn't have the money for that day to pay for your food that you got from the farm, you could come back and put your money in this box, that he trusted everyone. George Davis, many of you may remember Little Peach. The people used to say Littleton issues were figured out at Little Peach, and people would go there, meet together and have conversations about what was going on in Littleton. And lots of the issues were figured out at Littleton's Little Peach. And last but not least, Rick Hool. He was a former Littleton resident, and he contributed countless hours to the Littleton Conservation Trust. He was a resident who had moved away from Littleton, but we'll never forget him. And so you received from me a couple of lists. The first list was persons that lived in Littleton that passed in 2024. And the second list you received was actually persons that passed away in Littleton, but didn't necessarily live in Littleton. They may have been living at the nursing home and things like that. And some of them were on actually both lists. So, but those were my recommendations. Obviously, it's entirely up to this board as to, who they choose, but those are all people that I feel were truly Littletonians and persons that are deserving of the honor.
Thank you. Does anyone have any?
I will endorse this list wholeheartedly.
Yeah, and thank you for going through this and,
Sure.
and presenting it to us, because it was, I think, 81 souls on one list, and
Yep.
it's a lot to go through. And
Yep.
you mentioned Mr. Whitcomb being
Yeah.
a historian, but you've got that line of sight to who these folks are and what they've contributed to Littleton as well. So thank you for that.
It's tough to, to always know who to bring forward. And quite often you're looking at the list and you're thinking of just persons that are on boards and committees, but these people, touch the lives of many people in Littleton. So.
Okay.
Do we don't need a motion?
I don't think so, as long as you're endorsing it.
Okay,
Okay.
fine.
Great.
thank you.
Thank
Diane.
you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Sustainability.
Good evening. I'm Sarah Rambacher. I'm from the Sustainability Committee, and we're here this evening to provide an update on the committee's activities as specified under our charter when the committee was created in 2012. Just to refresh everyone on the mandate of the Sustainability Committee, it's our mission to help promote the culture of sustainability in our community by developing partnerships with all the residents, government, businesses, using innovation, education, and communication, and to do comprehensive and strategic planning. I'm the current chair of the committee, and in addition, we have longstanding members Margaret Gibbs and Don McIver, and in the past couple of years, we've welcomed Rob Houston, Emily Squires, Charlotte Dolans, and John Hagberg to the committee. And we'd also like to recognize our select board liaison, Karen Morrison, and Connor Reardon from LELWD. And we'd also like to give special thanks to Diane Dickerson from the TA's office, who we've been working with a lot. All of these people have given thoughtful contributions and partnership over the past year. And as we've pursued this mission, and we really appreciate all that work. Over the past year, our committee has sought continuous engagement in 3 main areas of focus. First is education. We participated in outreach at the Third Thursdays and at the Holiday Bazaar. And we've also contributed to the Newtown newsletter to help give some actionable ideas that residents can take towards becoming more sustainable. We also focused on advocacy and giving input to the open space and recreation plan, hazard mitigation planning. We partnered with Connor and LELD to evaluate usage of the town's EV chargers, and we identified some opportunities to drive better adoption there, and they've restructured their rate fees as part of that work that we did with them. We're also working to expand opportunities for residents to take action, like we've put candy wrapper recycling containers in schools and the libraries. And we've worked with the high school students to run Zero Waste Day to encourage reuse and recycling. And that was a great partnership with them. As a committee, we're committed to learning and gaining perspective from the best practices of other organizations across the state. And as you can see here, we're active participants in a variety of councils, and those are great partnerships, and we bring back a lot of ideas to Littleton, more knowledge and connections to help make sure that we're taking advantage of all the resources. Just over 18 months ago, we launched the Energize Littleton site in connection with Mass Energize. This site allows residents to engage and have visibility into local events. Residents can learn how to take actions in small steps, like beginning to compost, and also large steps like installing solar panels or heat pumps, converting to electric vehicles. There's a lot of information on there. We encourage everyone to visit the site, and by registering your email, you can opt in to get notifications so that when we put things up there, you'll find out about it. And you can find a link to that on the sustainability page. We're continuing to focus on opportunities to drive further adoption because, as the theme of the site is, many small changes lead to big outcomes. All right, and so at the end of 2024, we hosted our Climate Action Forum, which was our opportunity to jumpstart a conversation with many of you here in this room around how a climate action plan might take shape in Littleton. We heard from local leaders who have successfully implemented climate action plans in their towns, and we learned about the value that brought to their community. It was a great opportunity to build an early coalition with all the citizens and fellow board members, committee members, and town employees to identify and think about how to address Littleton's needs through the climate action plan, which leads us to 2025 and what we're excited about. We have 3 key initiatives on our plate that we expect to make progress on in 2025. The first is a shared sustainability resource with the towns of Pepperell, Townsend, and Dunstable, made possible through an energy efficiency and conservation block grant. We're partnering with the TA's office to focus on developing a path to create a climate action plan, and we'll be coming back to you for your advocacy and support and feedback as that plan becomes clearer. Secondly, we're excited about our engagement with the TA's office and working with the Mass Fleet Advisor to identify opportunities for our municipal fleet to be electrified as vehicles need to be replaced. We can look at whether it makes sense to replace those with electric vehicles. Also to look at the overall charging structure in Littleton and how the town can charge their vehicles efficiently. We're committed to ensuring sustainable growth in Littleton, and we look forward to engaging on the Shaker Lane School project and the 550 King Street development. We welcome your feedback and engagement on how we can best support you in ensuring that we take some significant sustainable actions with these and any other major investments in town. So thank you for your sponsorship. and for having us here for the update. And if you have any questions.
I'm happy someone is paying attention to all of this stuff. And I think we're getting a bargain based on your budget. So I appreciate all the time and effort that you're spending on this. I do think it's very important. I think it has an outsized impact on what we do in the future. So forge ahead.
I just am continually surprised and amazed at the amount that you all can accomplish with the resources you have at your disposal. And I think it says a lot about who you are and how well you all work together to get that done. I thought the forum, especially on the climate action plan, it was so well attended, and it was really informative, and it brought a lot of people in who we don't see all the time. And that's a big accomplishment. So thank you for that.
Just thank you for, all that you've done. It's good for us to get this update. So not only for us to understand all that you're doing, but also so everybody else, the thousands that are watching at home, to be updated as well. But thank you to everybody on the committee, and with every committee, it's a labor of love. It takes a lot of time, and your dedication and volunteerism is definitely appreciated. Thank you.
Yeah, echo what everybody said. Also, just as I looked at some of the dealing with the electric vehicle parking spaces, are you part of the I guess when a new, like Northern Bank and Trust, for instance, putting in, or they're up and building, has your group ever been invited to conversations with them on what their plan is? I'm just saying,
I'm not sure we've been invited. We did. I know when that development was in front of the planning board, we did actually attend, and we did provide some feedback asking for them to put in that infrastructure for charging.
Okay, that was I just think we could make that part of, just if you're going to do business with Littleton, the sustainability committee needs to be brought in, and at least for discussion and awareness.
Seems like the planning board would
I was
be
just going to say that building,
to bring them into the
the
conversation.
building department and the planning board
Yeah.
can make sure that, like, when we approve any kind of anything, we get input from the police, the fire, the unit, so
We can ask at least.
that it be part of the checklist.
Just to make sure that it is. All right, thank you.
Yeah,
That's great.
and through all those different organizations and meetings that we do attend statewide, we gain a lot of information that can be helpful for us to provide input to projects like that.
That's awesome. Thank you.
I think you guys do a great job. I am surprised you guys don't ask more from us on things that we can help you with. So please feel, reach out when there's things that you're struggling with, that you need our help with.
All right.
Through
Well,
Karen.
Yes, through me. Gladly.
I will also, I know Acton has their climate coaches. Is that what they're called? Their energy coaches and things. And is there talk of expanding that program to Littleton too, or?
we haven't specifically talked about that. We are aware of it. If it's something that especially if there's community interest, because that does pull in community members to be trained as coaches, and then sort of spread the information out. So if anyone wants to get in touch with us, sustainability at Littleton Massa, we would definitely be willing to make the connections to make that happen.
They won an award at the MMA for innovation or something. Innovative
Programs or
services.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah, they work closely with Mass Energize, and Mass Energize, they did 4 towns doing a plug-in campaign where they did a lot of focused help to those towns. It was funded through, I believe, through some state funding through Jamie Eldridge, and they did a lot of helping them reach out through social media and run programs. And so that's a pilot program, since we're connected into the Mass Energize ecosystem. will, the lessons that they've learned, they're passing along. And so we're going to benefit from those efforts.
So the other thing at the MMA conference, for those that aren't aware, the Wellesley Police Department now has a EV, it's a Chevy Equinox that's a fully electric patrol vehicle. It's the first one that's been certified for the state, to my knowledge, the first model that's been certified for the state. So I spent some time talking to them about their experience with that, and it's something that we should, socialize more and get more people involved with. A lot of I was talking to one of the police officers who sounded more, most of the issues were like not understanding enough about EVs in general than specific issues with the car. Like they still have range anxiety, a lot. So, but it might be nice for someone to reach out to Wellesley and get their experience and help on sharing it back.
Yeah, and hopefully we can get some good advice from, I mentioned the fleet advisor, and we've done, our committee has helped together with Diane Dickerson, and then inputs from a lot of the departments. We've built an inventory of all the vehicles and the mileage that they're driven, the age of them, and their fuel efficiency. That goes to the state program called Mass Fleet Advisor, and they'll look at that and they'll make some recommendations on what vehicles would be best to replace.
Okay.
And police cars are one of those. Cruisers are one of those.
They're apparently not they're slightly more expensive before the credits, but after all the energy credits, I think they're roughly the same price as a hybrid. So thank you.
Thank you.
Right. Thank you.
Cultural Council.
Flowers. Thank you for letting me slip into this very busy evening. So Kim Albertelli, Cultural Council, and last year we planted flowers and butterflies and we put that in the common, and we didn't have a firm beginning date. We didn't have a firm ending date. So we thought we'd ask this year as to when the mowing starts, when the ground thaws, and when we can start planting. Because last year, everybody that did this and provided this for us wanted more. We gave people like 10 or 15 and they all wanted 50. So we think it's going to be bigger each year, and that sounds fun. And we thought, well, we better ask, can we do it in front of the police station? Can we do it in front of the fire station? Is there other buildings that we should avoid? Can we do that? So that's why I'm here.
I think it's great.
Yeah.
Yes to all the above.
Yeah.
Just so you know, if you limit it, that means I have more storage in my garage. But if you give us ad hoc permission, I'm gonna need a bigger garage. So then I'll go to the planning board.
Go forth and
It was
plant.
awesome.
Yeah.
So basically, we understand that last year we planted a lot on the grass. We avoided all of the mulched areas, thinking that that was the right thing to do. But now we are taught that perhaps the mulch is the better place to go, because then they can mow around us. So our goal is to do that this year, and we'll obviously wait for the thaw. And then we understand that if somebody shoots us a date when the high school things go out, we will get out of the way for the graduates. Okay, so
Mhm.
maybe we'll be out there for 4 or 6 weeks.
Okay. Yeah.
So
I don't know who's doing the high school.
also, we
classes
have
here.
somebody dating us at the cultural council coming to our meeting, so maybe the 9th slot will be filled after all. So yeah, we might be good.
Great.
Okay,
Thank you.
I can say yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hold on. Yeah, wait, hold on. Move that the select board vote to approve the cultural council's request to place 12-inch flowers and butterflies on town-owned property locations, including the town common, police and fire stations, and the park at the crossing of Harwood into Hadawan roads.
Second.
Moved by Matthew, seconded by Karen. All those in favor?
Bye.
Okay, now you can go.
Thank you.
Thank
Quickly. I appreciate your time.
I think mulching's ends in May. That when they,
Yeah, you should probably check with DPW on where the best locations are and
Yeah.
timing.
it's usually May.
Thank you. Affordable housing.
Actually. the
No,
gardeners.
country gardeners.
Oh, No, that was, oh, Country Gardens. I'm sorry.
Good evening.
Well, one second. Is there anyone for Country Gardeners or we're
I'm
just,
not sure. Is there anyone here from Country Gardeners?
my
Pretty
mistake.
straightforward request.
So they just want to use the town common for their annual plant sale?
Correct.
Mother's Day.
Hmm?
Just before Mother's Day.
Yeah.
All set? Move that the select board vote to approve the use of the Littleton Common for the Littleton Country Gardeners Annual Plant Sale scheduled for May 10th, 2025 from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., including setup on May 9th, 2025.
Second,
Moved by Matthew, seconded by Karen. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay,
Sorry about that.
now you're up. Sorry, my
Thank
mistake.
Angus Michaels. I'm here on behalf of the Affordable Housing Trust. And we want to talk about the homeowner small grant program that Littleton recently was awarded by the Housing Choice Grant Office of the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities. It's a total of $120,000, and it offers $7,500 for critical home repairs for qualified Littleton residents. There are strict eligibility criteria, and these are: the property must be the primary residence and in need of critical repair. The income must not exceed 80% of Littleton's median income, and the occupant must intend to live in the home for at least the next 12 months. So those are the basic eligibility criteria. They also list what the grant can be used for. It's an extensive list. I'm not sure you want to sit here and listen to all of that. It can be looked up somewhere else. And the town does have incentives that the town can offer. Obviously, the building permit fees are waived, and the town makes payment directly to the contractor upon completion of the approved repairs. The Affordable Housing Trust has gone ahead and prepared agreements and procedural flow for administering this grant. These are in process and hopefully should be ready soon. We also have prepared an award letter that is also in the works, and these will be made available as soon as they're all set to go. So this in a nutshell is the program. It's fairly simple and straightforward if the residents qualify. Are there any questions?
So this program, we applied for the state grant and we were awarded $120,000 to spend over the next 2 years to help residents basically stay in their homes. And the Affordable Housing Trust is ready to go live with this program now after several months of back and forth on setting it up and contract work and everything. So
It's a partnership with
Executive Officer.
EHS.
Yeah.
yeah, EHS is going to oversee the a lot of the paperwork at EHS and the building department
Right.
are going to vet everything. So
The building commissioner is going to vet the contractors
Yes,
and the work, of course.
yes.
yeah, so I believe we're ready. Maren, are we ready to go live? So the plan is for it to go live next week.
And I think, this one, I'm on the Disability Commission. I think I'll bring this up because this is one that we want to make sure that
Yeah.
members of that board as well
Yeah,
are,
that's great.
Yes.
For
So
accessibility.
right, we might
Absolutely.
know individuals' needs
Yeah.
that aren't being. Yeah. That's great. Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Doctor.
We're a little bit ahead. Maren, are you here for anything other than the last item? So can we take Maren out of order so she can go home? 5C, the contract for Green International.
Thank you very much. So planning board uses Green International affiliates for peer reviews and for construction oversight for new subdivision roadways. Realized that their contract was due for renewal, so the request is for the select board to vote to authorize a new contract, new 3-year contract with Green. There's no funding required for this contract. Each task order under the contract is funded by the applicants, by the developers.
So the only question well, there was two things. One is the contract had the wrong year for the start date. It said
Okay,
starting 2024.
okay.
My only other question was, it said like a $50,000 limit. Is that,
Okay, so the 50,000, it's, since we would expect Green International to earn over $50,000 throughout the 3 years, that's what triggered the need to come to the select board for approval.
okay.
And authorizing Jim's office.
Right.
Yeah. So this isn't anything that costs the town any money. It's
Right.
billed back to the developers. It's just. we
It's
have
over
to-
50,000, so we have to
Yeah.
approve that. And no one has any questions?
Any,
Move that the select board vote to authorize the town administrator's office to execute a contract with Green International affiliates for the provision of engineering services for peer reviews of development and redevelopment proposals on behalf of the planning board.
Second,
moved by Matthew, second by Karen. All those in favor?
Aye.
Right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
thanks.
Thank you. Good night.
Okay. Now we can move back to Conservation Commission.
Have a quorum?
Evening again, Chase Gerbig, co-chair of the Conservation Commission. We're here to talk about lot 107A, Negog Hill Orchard area. I guess let me set the stage. What I'm hoping to get from you all tonight is a sense of direction. How we want to go about looking at subdividing this parcel and then transferring it to the care, custody, and control of the Conservation Commission. That's what we're suggesting is the right disposition, but we understand there are a lot of ideas about what needs to be done here. So what I'd like to do is lay out sort of our vision for this and then engage with you all on what you see the right process to be to go forward with it. Although I think you're all familiar with it, let me set the stage real quickly. When we talk about Negog Hill Orchard here, we're talking about a portion of the orchard that is not part of what's being leased, the non-leased portion. This is, you can see on this map up here, that little hatched area is the portion of lot 107 that we propose subdividing and transferring to the care, custody, and control of the Conservation Commission. That is sort of across the streets in multiple ways from the actual orchard, right? So this is
not part of the agriculture.
it is not part of the APR. It is not part of the apple orchard as people know it. That said, the town acquired this parcel in 2001. What the rest of it?
Oh, yeah, something like that.
Something like that. Yeah, thereabouts. And what we would like to do, what the Conservation Commission's objective here is to conserve this particular parcel of land, not the entirety of it, but just a portion of lot 107. And Jim or Ryan, if you wouldn't mind to flip to actually the very end picture here, I think does a better job of telling the story than any map does. What you see here is the road, and the top right is the lake. And then you see a pond here, you see an open meadow. And one of the challenges of this parcel is it's sort of well equipped to grow a lot of invasive species. We've had troubles with invasive species here. 2019, we had to do an invasive species management plan with the support of the trust. So there's just pure conservation pieces of it. There's an element of this that is associated with passive recreation. What we're proposing to subdivide is 7.9-ish acres. That's a useful amount of land to do passive recreation on. It's also immediately across the street from the Trust's Sarah Doublet Forest. So the ability to access both the Sarah Doublet Forest and this piece of the conservation land is very valuable.
right, from a passive recreation perspective. So Chase, just to set this picture, the buildings in, I guess it's on the lower left is like the cottage.
Right.
Yes,
And then
and that
is
is
just off the-
outside of that. Yeah, I'm gonna flip back to another picture. Yeah, why don't we go with down one, right? The assessor's map version. Yep. So what I did is I turned this picture on its side, but here now at the bottom, you have Nagog. In yellow is the 7.9 acres that we're talking about potentially conserving. And then to the right of that is, we're talking about subdividing this parcel. The portion of this parcel in white, the big open space there that is not colored, is part of this parcel currently. What we're looking to do with your support is to subdivide this parcel and conserve the yellow portion while not separating out and conserving the white portion. And we've talked about this, I think our boards have, but for the sake of the public, part of our argument for not conserving that is that it's got two structures on it. And I will tell you, I mean, I think the commission would be willing to work with you if you really wanted to see conservation control that. I would say we're really good at a few things, and managing true conservation land without structures is something we're really good at with the help of the trust. You put structures on it, that's a little outside of our wheelhouse. We could probably do it if that was something you wanted. We're proposing to keep those in the sort of town controlled parcel right now. Notably, that yellow area, I want to point out a couple features that really speak to the importance of conserving it. You see the pond adjacent to Nagog. That pond sort of has a large riparian area around it. There's also a stream that comes across this, all sort of really beautiful vistas, right? That's the other sort of main driver. You stand on the road, you walk this, just the views are probably some of the best in Littleton. And that's, frankly, that was part of the motivation in 2019 of managing invasive species, is that they had sort of grown up and overtaken what was historically, honestly, one of the most beautiful parts of town. So with that, we talked about this last fall. We understand, I got an email from Mark to the water department that the water department is also interested in understanding what options they might have in this area with respect to some treatment plant siting for water from cobs. Right now, I've had a brief dialogue with Nick Lawler. Plan would be to sort of sit down with Nick and understand what they would need, and does this boundary work for them? We think it probably does. In fact, before we brought this to the select board in the fall, we had met with Corey for a while, and I think Amy, you and Sarah had walked the land with Corey. So we're very confident that there's a solution there. Corey was good with this delineation, but we'll go back to the water department.
And for the public, the dividing line is basically the stone wall. There's an existing stone wall there. So that's effectively the dividing line.
And so the question we have for you is process. Well, I guess let me step back. One is general support, right? Conceptually, does this make sense to you all? And because we know that there's some legal and administrative processes that we need to go through. So first is, generally at a high level, does this make sense to you? And if it does, what process would you envision to go forward with the efforts to conserve this? Understanding that our goal, conservation's goal, is to bring this forward to town meeting with your support this spring.
Do you know if the parcel has been legally subdivided?
It has
That's a
been,
survey plan you see there, sorry.
You still work for us.
Conservation agent there. The plan you see there is a surveyed plan for the subdivision. We haven't gone to planning board yet because we wanted to make sure it was approved before that step, but that's ready to go.
Just not that this is germane, would that subdivision have to be approved by town meeting? Because it's municipal land, or is it just a planning board?
Not the subject.
It's the transfer.
The transfer needs to be approved. Okay, thank
Well,
you.
we first will have to make it excess.
Okay,
Right. Then
Surplus.
surplus, excuse me.
we have to declare a surplus?
Yeah, we will.
Well, we just transfer control, I believe. I don't think we'd have to declare it surplus. We have to agree to transfer control, because it's not worth selling the property.
Uncertainty, I think what would make the most sense is if you are generally supportive and willing to give us license to work with the town administrator and town council,
Yeah.
we can come back to you with what's the right
Okay.
process. Because I think there's some questions around that.
So I'm generally supportive. I think that there was a town meeting there's a warrant article from 2015, which it seemed from my reading of it, the intention was to put this under conservation. Is that what you think that article was?
That is my understanding, but I wasn't there. Sarah Seward has been involved with the acquisition of this property. Sarah Seward, co-chair of the Conservation Commission, this property writ large, going back to when the Morrisons owned it. And her understanding is that the intent long-term was exactly that. And the intent of the 2015 town meeting article to approve the subdivision was with that in mind. Understanding that the reason we are in front of you is that it doesn't actually say that. If it said that, we would just go forward. So that is her understanding dating back to when the Morrisons owned it.
So I'm generally in favor of giving you control of this to conserve it.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to see a more flushed out plan. I mean, you have some great ideas you were mentioning, just to control it, to be able to actually access it, view it, and get as close to the water as possible, obviously without getting into too much trouble there. But I think it's a beautiful location, and the light and water piece outside of the well, the discussion is also the piping of water from Nagog. So we know that in maybe not next year or the next 10, but we will have access to that water, which who knows if we'll need it.
And I will point out, Gary, right, that although on this picture, the plan left version conserves the shorefront for a portion of that, on plan right, there's a lot of exposed access to Nagog Pond.
Okay. And it just looks like there that if something had to be done, it could be run to the right of this.
Yep.
I'm have to assume.
107B.
Yeah, it's 107B.
I would actually argue you would almost always want to, because otherwise you've either got to cross through that pond or you've got to cross that stream that runs to the edge. It's setting aside sort of all current subdivision lines and so on. You'd be hard pressed to find it.
And there's already structures in the white portion.
Right.
There's barns, there's a bunch of old stuff from the orchard, some dilapidated.
Outbuildings.
Yeah, and also the old sprayer tanks and stuff. So, I mean, it's not like that's pristine wilderness. And if that would be a good location for a treatment, if there was going to be a treatment plant, because it's completely invisible and hidden, as far as I know, from any residences and the road.
Yeah.
My only concern was access, and
Yeah.
from this picture, there looks like there's a lot of street access off of Nagog Hill, off of that other parcel. I don't know how true that is when you actually go out there and look, because I think it drops off fairly
It's pretty
substantially.
deep next to the.
So my only concern is like that little section by the cottage there, whether they would have to come in that direction to get access.
Park behind the barn. Down.
Well, they kind of come in, either they're gonna have to come in between the barn and the cottage,
Yeah.
which kind of limits the use of the barn and the cottage, or they come around it, which is conservation on this picture, right?
Definitely.
And there is a driveway that goes all the way down to the pond in the white pond.
Okay.
Between the
It's not
barn and the cottage, right? It's where it
Yeah,
goes
it
down.
starts there
Yeah.
and then works its way down.
Interestingly enough, if you squint to the inset to the top right, you can actually see the
Mhm.
driveway marked as a road up there. In the the non-conserved portion.
And we didn't speak with Nick, it was just Corey. Corey was looking at the top part. Now, whether or not they, things changed, but that's initially where he was looking.
By top part, Amy, if I may. What the white,
The plan
Lot
top,
107B?
that white, the corner between up Sarah Dublin, Nagog, pretty much. There's a field up there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as you're facing the barn, is the stuff to the left.
Okay.
And could you clarify if conservation had this, there wouldn't be any restrictions, like if the town or someone wanted to, if the Conservation Commission decided to put a gazebo up or turn it into something more than just completely passive, that's still possible under conservation?
That would still be possible, you know, frankly, I think the biggest constraint here is gonna be from Concord Water.
Yeah.
They were very cautious when we did the clearing and there's a lot of communication. And actually they reached out to me, Melissa, someone they see over there reached out to me just because she happened to see it on our agenda and said, hey, what's going on? You know, because they're fully supportive of this piece of it. They don't want trails down to the reservoir.
They want to conserve as
They,
much.
they
land
do
around
not want,
as
yeah,
possible.
they wouldn't want trails past that little beaver pond thing. They don't want the public. There's been fishing trails down there, but they're pretty much overgrown.
Well, the gazebo wouldn't go any further than that anyway. It would be on this side. of it.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
would be up top where you get the views.
Yeah, but, yeah, so
But yes.
we could do something as long as we're cognizant of our neighbors.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, worst case, you could build a nature center on conservation land, so you get latitude.
So it's really just access and the parking. I mean, Sarah Douglas got such a small lot. This would definitely add some interest. But we'll cross that bridge, I guess, when it comes, because there is space behind that barn for. We've talked about that. It's kind of a rough soil, almost like it was used for parking back in there. We could probably, it's a pretty good area back there for
Yeah, it was parking. I think they had
20, 30
you know,
cars.
kickstart.
Yeah. So it's something that maybe we keep in mind for. And that doesn't have to be on conservation. So
But from my point of view, that's why I wouldn't want to see, you know, the white part because there's buildings on it. There's more things you
Yeah.
can do if you subdivide it.
we need
You have to
that.
worry about setbacks and, you know, it's a lot of, if you just leave a big, if you will, mass of land up there.
So yeah, I'm in favor.
so, yeah,
So as a matter of process, we'll engage with Light and Water. Are there any other sort of evaluations that you would like to see before we come back to you with what we would propose?
You're going to figure out the declaring it surplus and who needs to get permission. and all
As
that.
long as you're good with us accessing some time from town council, yes.
any other,
Yeah, I mean, I certainly want to make sure that we're crossing all Ts, you know, dotting all the Is, relative to light and water and, certainly, Amy, you've got the input relative to Concord to make sure that we're not, we're doing something that's not going to cause them to raise some flags with us because we want to keep them at bay as much as possible. But other than that, I mean, in principle, it seems like
if we threaten to
continuing
put
the
porta
conversation.
potties down by the water, will they give us more money?
Our annual bonfire right there.
Put a porta potty down by the pond. and-
Oh, yeah, love that.
Don't poke the bear.
Yeah, just make it beautiful. It's already a beautiful spot, like you said. I think it's
The challenge, honestly.
keeping
is
that
keeping it
down.
beautiful.
You can just, it's a beautiful spot.
So what I'd like to do then is, obviously we'll work with Jim and Ryan, but keep a fairly consistent drumbeat of engaging with Light and Water, engaging with town council. I don't know if 2 weeks from now is sufficient time, let you know, but I would imagine at the furthest 4 weeks from now to come back to you with a, where are we at with Light and Water? Where are we at with town council? Do you envision after that, let's say we come back, Light and Water says yes, and town council gives us the process. Do you envision any other sort of public discussion sessions around what to do with that? This was one of my understandings from the fall was we hadn't talked about it enough, and I want to make sure we're talking about it enough.
I mean, it's gonna go on the warrant, what, March 15th or March?
Yeah.
But it was on the warrant. and-
Right, I'm just saying, it's not a very difficult article to write.
It's kind of like. right.
It's already written.
Let's not.
I love you guys. I don't need to be here any more than you want me.
I'd like to see one more, obviously when you speak town council, you're gonna come back and then I think we are going to have to declare it surplus.
Okay.
I believe that was a
Whatever.
discussion with
That was-
town
yeah, that
council.
was-
That was one of the issues we had in May. The second,
So I would suggest, once you have all your ducks in a row with town council, we'll hold a public hearing.
Okay.
And then people can come and speak for or against it and then we'll know. Effectively is like any other planning board or zoning article that would go forward, we can put it out that way.
Very good.
So,
awesome, thanks, Chase.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks, the committee.
Thanks, Sam.
Public input, members updates. You want to start with members updates?
I don't have anything today.
Karen?
Attended the MMA conference from Thursday to Saturday. It's a really great opportunity that we have on the select board to get together with other folks that are also on select boards across the state and talk about what they're experiencing and how they're handling their problems, and a little bit of brainstorming, lots of inspiration. I would just like to thank all of Littleton. My mom has a saying, be grateful for your own problems. And after the conference, I'm definitely grateful that we have the problems we have and not the problems some of our neighbors have.
Yes.
But I think it's a great opportunity. There's a lot to, be able to take in. There was a lot of discussion about civil communication and where you can have effective discussions. It was an interesting conversation with one session where only about half the folks in the room had local newspapers. And it was astonishing how different the perspectives were. The folks that had the local newspapers really couldn't understand, why the folks who don't have local newspapers like Littleton are experiencing some of the issues we're having, and vice versa. We're like, you don't have this problem, So I would just like to thank the town, honestly, for making that opportunity available to us, because it's a great learning experience and there's a lot to be learned, and we did our best to learn it.
Yeah, I'll echo that, having attended as well. And there's a lot of scheduled sessions that there's specific agendas and learning sessions and introducing us to different topics, which are great. But you're in a classroom watching a PowerPoint deck, not another one, which is awesome. But a lot of the discussions, to your point, Karen, like at the coffee bar or, just between sessions, you just get so much more. Even if anybody does it professionally, goes to a trade show or something like that, conversations that you have on the trade show floor or just, again, between sessions, the networking, meeting other folks that do what we do. Jim introduced me to the mayor of Haverhill, and I had a great conversation. Lapoli Development has done some development in Haverhill and has some other proposed development to happen in Haverhill. So it was a good introduction just to kind of, let's keep an eye on each other and make sure that keep each other in check and updated and make sure we're holding everybody to the fire kind of thing. So it was definitely beneficial, and I definitely appreciate the opportunity to be able to do that and learn. Can always learn something.
I really don't have anything to add. Just, I think your work and the board's work to push forward an electronic mailing, and the podcast I think is going to help reach a few more people. And I think
Thousands.
technology is leaning that way.
Almost as many as who are watching tonight.
I think Littleton will get, and I think our goal is to get to a point where we can do a mail out.
Yeah.
And that's just going to require, but we'll get there.
So I was also at the MMA conference. It was great information. I also liked the one where we were just around the select board members and they were asking like what your level of stress was. I think about half of the members said it was moderate, and another 30% said it was high, but not very high. There were very few on the extremes. And I would agree with Karen that based on what some of the other stores were there, we have it pretty good here in Littleton. A couple other things I attended the Eagle Scout presentation for Matthias LaCroix a couple weeks ago. He put in the little free food pantries around town. And there will be another one going in over at the 36 King Street once the construction's far enough along. So congratulations to Matthias. The Littleton Lyceum's holding a program this Friday. I believe it's at 7:30 at the high school. I think it's Alex the Jester. I went to the Newsies performance for the middle school, yesterday at the, Performing Arts Center. It was an incredible performance. It was packed in there. It was great to see everyone out supporting, the middle school. I believe there were 57, middle schoolers in the production and about 18 high schoolers to help support them. It went off really well. They did a great job. Congratulations to everyone. And thanks to Tracy O'Neill and the music director whose name's escaping me.
Dr. Sean.
Yes, for all their hard work. Gary and I met with the finance team last week to try and reduce the cost of what the override for Shaker Lane will be. There's been a lot of work going on, and I can't thank the finance team enough for all the work they've put into this. There'll be more information coming out at our meeting on Saturday, our budget meetings on Super Saturday about this, but there's been a ton of work to go in to make this much, not necessarily cheap, but more affordable for the residents and more palatable. And I can't say enough about the amount of effort that people have put in, so thank you. So, do you have any updates on projects you want to give?
Let's see. So, so for 36 King, we are continuing to meet weekly. We are working to determine a way forward, specifically about some of our HVAC aspects of it. Trying to work with our team in terms of some things that came up that weren't exactly what we had hoped for. But we'll be reporting back on that hopefully soon. And as far as the senior center, we are still on target for opening the center on Shattuck Street for substantial completion on March 11th. We were discussing potential ribbon cutting dates, and that'll probably be pushed to after town meeting and after the election. At a time when the weather's a little better, and we'll be able to do some landscaping at that point. So that's our hope for the center on Shattuck Street.
Are you intentionally being vague about the HVAC problems?
Well, we're still trying. Most of the building is okay. It's just that there's another segment that we're just trying to kind of get our arms around. We're trying to figure out a strategy and trying to do something that potentially meets our goals in terms of the sustainability committee, and looking at potential heat pumps on it,
Gotcha.
maybe as an alternate to what's already there.
We're continuing to, as you have tonight, to authorize for me to sign the contract with the company that's doing the infrastructure up at 550 King Street. We continue to have conversations with the owner of that, for the timing of when that's going to, the timing of 550 King Street, with the timing of when that's going to occur. And also thinking long range in regards to when they go vertical. And what is going to be really particularly honed down into what's going to be phase one within vertical. Another area that has really taken up a lot of our time in the office has been with the closure of Neshoba Valley Medical Center. The efforts that have been put forth by the public safety departments in all 13 communities is quite taxing. And we have had multiple meetings with, as we all know, UMass is interested in doing something on an emergency room level. They'll also be able to do some radiology, do some things like that. It's an environment. It's nothing like an urgent care whatsoever. So, and I know some people have turned around and they've expressed that. It is nothing like that. This is trauma, go in, and typically approximately 80 to 90% of the people that are brought to the emergency room, they will have a bed capacity there for approximately 24 hours. And then at that point, they'll be discharged or they'll be transferred to a hospital or, something like that. And talking with UMass, there's in-depth conversations about location. And it is not going to be at where Stewart had exited at that site. That is absolutely fair. And apparently there is there is still a connection with Stewart to have ownership of that. It's just really it's an offshoot of Stewart actually owns the property, and there's been a level of difficulty, to say the least.
UMass wants nothing to do with it.
Correct. They're not walking away from them. They're running away from them. So, but we, the chief and I are going to meet with the chair of the Ways and Means Committee on Wednesday afternoon. And it's something that we're going back to a letter that was written by the 13 chiefs and the community, the state representatives, the senators, and advocating that the impact that it's had on the public safety personnel is alarming. The emotional stability is absolutely, when you go from one very, very critical emotional accident or occurrence or event to another without a breather and without days off, because there are callbacks all the time. So we are going to give, we're advocating on behalf of the 13 communities for a financial investment by the state. That because we are right now at 117% of our overtime for the fire department. We've overspent it. We're halfway through. And it's something that we are very concerned about everyone's emotional stability, but we want to be able to give the flexibility to communities to either hire someone to bring them on board or to use it for overtime, because some of those communities out there don't have the difficulty of bringing people back, and they don't have it because they don't have enough personnel, and the personnel are just refusing. So there's a lot of mutual aid that's going on with neighboring communities to help pick up the slack a little bit. So we have been working very hard in doing that, and I will make sure I report back.
And that'll be our next podcast episode.
It will be Wednesday. That's right. That's right, exactly.
So on 550, there's another potential grant, or
there was $1 million that was provided by the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities. And that really is as a result of funds for projects that have been awarded but are not shovel ready all the way. So they do have a tendency, the state does have the flexibility to be able to distribute funds that are shovel ready for projects that are shovel ready. Considering here we are going to sign a $2.5 million infrastructure, we can be able to continue that, and that will help us further on down the road, whether it be phase 2 or with engineering or anything like that. But we'll be spending it pretty quickly, and we will be submitting for a Mass Works grant again.
Every year we can, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
Exactly. And there has been very optimistic on the governor's office side with supporting that project.
Well, there's a lot of MBTA community money out there that towns aren't getting. So.
Right.
No. And on the sewer project, we saw a completion schedule with repaving and things. We should see if we can get that in the newsletter and share that out. I believe they were restarting they have a little bit more of work on King Street that they'll be doing once the thaw happens, and then final paving over the course of the summer into the early fall.
Well, and that's the other thing, we've really been communicating. We've worked hard. Ryan and I've worked hard in talking with LELWD. We would like to be able to see that done by June 30th.
Yeah.
Not go into the fall. That's our push.
And I have 2 updates on the orchard that we are working. We believe we'll have a meeting with Bransfield on February 12th in the community room of the police station to talk about where the public can ask him questions about his proposal. It's the time and everything is still, it's not firm yet, but that's what we're shooting for. And we're reached out to MAPC to schedule more informational meetings, and we're waiting to hear back from them on dates. So.
I had a question, but Jim, Yanks, I haven't been around.
Still up.
Is it still up?
Yeah.
I
Okay.
will send an email before the evening is out.
The record's there, sitting there.
It has been,
It's ready.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I will absolutely send that out, before tonight's over.
When we do that, could we also just mention that elm tree? Again, keep it top of mind for them.
Okay.
It's outside the fence, which is a good sign.
I think they're gonna say that. I think it's because it is outside the fence, it wouldn't be part of.
Yeah,
the
they're gonna
project.
say, yeah, we know, but.
Just to
that's
remind
okay.
them.
Okay.
Thanks.
Will do.
Probably
Absolutely.
several hundred years old.
Sure thing.
Okay, so we'll do public input, 10 minutes, limited to 2 minutes each, please. Thank you.
Hi, Amy Charlo Lewis at 3 Omega Way. So just to go to Chase's presentation, as a former member of the Apple Orchard Committee and as a former resident of Concord, I think seems like a good plan to me. I did have one request, so that bend in the road where the David Sullivan and Bro Sullivan live, the corner is so dangerous. I drive that road several times a week. People come flying around that corner, and it's super narrow, and David Sullivan can attest to how many accidents he's seen since he's been living there at that intersection, because kids drive super fast. Like, there was an accident with a teenager who had literally got his driver's license that day, to make sure that there's some safety for pedestrians crossing back and forth. I think it's a real potential hazard. My second point was just to kind of bring people aware. So I'm at 3 Omega Way, and there's a project sitting with a planning board at 550 Newtown Road, where the storage facility is. I just wanted to make sure people understood that building that they're proposing is bigger than Market Basket. Like, its square footage will literally be bigger than Market Basket, and how inappropriate it is for that project to be there. It needs to be redirected to the industrialized area, because that's why we did all the planning for the different zones, and that's where they need to go to. Additionally, I know this is like the third rail comment. I'm really concerned about our new administration and loss of funding in our state. And I'm wondering what your plan is if we lose educational funding, just like anything. Like, what's your plan? Because like I do grant writing for agriculture, and so many grants have literally just been put on hold. So there are farmers and producers who have been awarded grants and are accepting money, and their projects are being executed and they've been put on hold.
Thank you. So far, the Julia Driscoll administration has been very supportive of schools. They've announced it at the MMA conference that they've increased the minimum aid per student, and they're waiting for the legislature. So petition your local legislators to make sure that they continue to support the schools and Chapter 70, Chapter 90 in the budgets. We will continue.
You haven't seen anything, right? I mean,
So far, it's looking good for this
the
year. at
states,
least.
yeah, they seem.
So,
Yeah.
Thank you.
Impending doom. All right, thank you.
That brings up a good point. Like, we own that road, obviously by the conservation land.
We could put in
a raised strip even that, really make it.
Mhm.
People are gonna have to slow down. They're gonna feel it or rumble it or whatever we have to do there, because that's.
It is a crazy.
I know when we go down there to visit it, it's like,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
So anything we can do to force slow down, I guess what you would call it. So I'll have to talk to DPW.
Vincent Stolo, Sarah Doublet. I want to do, first of all, the corner that you're talking about, I live right there, and it is, as Amy mentioned, it is treacherous. The speed limits are not, they're not nearly, enforced is the wrong word. They're not nearly followed. And it causes a tremendous amount of problems.
But I wanted to get some clarification when it came to the orchard and the discussion sessions that you folks had mentioned, and there a little bit of confusion because I've kind of heard two different things over the last few weeks with regard to public input and questions, and I want to understand when that is happening vis-a-vis the decision on whether or not to move forward with the lease with this prospective new tenant. It was always my understanding that the public would have the opportunity to address things prior to a lease decision being made, but it seems like maybe it's going to be like sort of a meet and greet with the new occupant of the land, and just wanted to get some feedback as to what the thinking was and where that falls on the timeline.
So as far as the potential February 12th meeting with the new tenant, it will be before we sign any lease. As far as the MAPC meetings, they're still up in the air exactly when they will be scheduled versus a lease agreement. The original idea when we were talking about the MAPC meetings were to help us more when we were planning on going for a sale, and to help this time of year build a consensus behind this a sale of the property. If the lease proceeds, we don't need to go towards a sale, so they'll be structured slightly differently on what we're coming out with.
But the MAPC meetings are not strictly reference to the lease process.
Understood. Okay, thank you.
There. Thank you. Dustin Neal, 17 Lakeshore Drive. And I'm currently serving as president of the Littleton Conservation Trust. I also wanted to address this issue, and although I was the principal author of the letter I hope you all read this week from Littleton Conservation Trust, it was written collectively from our group, and I wanted to extend and make sure that in the past there's been some perceived conflict between conservation and town government. That's not our intent whatsoever. We really do want to collaborate as much as possible because we know that we can all accomplish more the more that we collaborate. That said, I'm really glad to hear that a lease decision will not be made until after that February 12th meeting, as was just mentioned. This group and many others in town have put a Herculean effort into the process that we were given. The problem is that it's an imperfect process. So when we get a process, even when executed correctly, when it creates a really deeply imperfect solution, it's incumbent on us to do everything that we can to look for alternatives. And that's what Littleton Conservation Trust is asking for. We want to help make any alternatives we find happen and take the power of the Conservation Trust, the other organizations we're tied with, all of the residents of Littleton to support that. And I wish we had been able to do that or known before the May 2024 meeting, or the timing had been a little bit different town meeting, because we could have easily gotten those extra votes. And I know we could get them this time if we take a different course. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
Oh, I do have one other quote I just wanted to mention to you. I'm going to read this quote. It's from a local landscaping company who's in part specializes in removing invasive plants. Their website says it is deeply gratifying work to preserve and restore indigenous plant communities for the benefit of wildlife and the preservation of extant genetic diversity. I'm going to read it again. I'm going to remove one word and replace it with another. It is deeply gratifying work to preserve and restore indigenous communities for the benefit of wildlife and preservation of extant genetic diversity. That quote is from the website of Bransfield Tree Company. We share a lot of goals with them. Our problem is with the process, not with them. Thank you.
Rob Brown's 25 Juniper Road. I appreciate you. When I'm done, it might not sound like that, but I appreciate you. I disagree with you on too many aspects about the Nagog Hill Orchard. I seriously considered petitioning you to convene a special meeting. I was talked out of that. I deeply regret being talked out of that at this point. As one of you said months ago, an unsuccessful third RFP for lease process can serve as a data point. The select board can use that data point to justify bringing forward another RFP to sell. I remember another one of you saying, Kristen's point is well taken. It's illustrative of why we'll be terrible landlords despite our best efforts. During that October 21st select board meeting, you collectively discussed bending and doing gymnastics in order to try to rationalize how to continue on with the process. You essentially debated whether the process was tainted beyond repair. And yet you decided to open the envelope. You decided you want to proceed. I mistakenly believe what you said when you said that a couple of you would get together for office hours and listen to people with their comments. I thought it would be more than just one-off comments, which I appreciate you doing office hours and hearing from people like me with one-offs, but I want to hear from other people. I want you to hear from other people. I want us all to hear collectively so we can figure it out. How many times have I asked you to convene a public hearing? I'm asking the potential lessee to withdraw. I don't think it's a process that serves us well. I want the orchard to have the opportunity to become a beacon of Littleton pride. Some of you spoke in July about your dreams about the orchard. Some of you recently speak as if the new lessee is going to have rose-colored future, all around. It's going to solve our problems. I want to remind you, our experience with the last lessee was horrible. It left the orchard in a terrible spot. It needs work. Too little has been done. Not enough was done before that May vote. Too little has been done to communicate how bad the situation is. I fear this RFP for lease process is going to be another terrible chapter for the orchard. It deserves better. Littleton deserves better. I believe I'm happy to hear some aspect of what I heard tonight. I think it's the first time that I've heard about an MAPC involvement. I know they interviewed me weeks ago. I think you've effectively walled off MAPC with regard to the public input that they have, that they should be ready to give you. I know such public input would make your jobs extremely more challenging to have to confront everything that's out there. You know, there are very good candidates out there who want to buy the orchard. The potential lessee is one of them. And the Choppa Praying Indians are another. And you know there are others out there as well. The RFI revealed Littleton's ownership of the orchard appears at this point to be a failure. Please don't execute this lease. MDR's notice of compliance can be managed. You just need to be open to the outcomes, but the outcomes can only happen if you open up for other opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you.
Carolyn Mueller, 8 East Roxbury Drive, not on the orchard. I wanted to address a comment that Gary had made during the January 13th meeting during your member update. You gave a well-deserved kudos to Joe Cataldo and Ryan, the project manager, and the crew, and all the extra effort that they put into the renovation of 12 Robinson Road. There's really some nice elements in it. And while it's different than what we first envisioned, we definitely are considering it a reuse and a preservation win. I'd like to kind of give the Historical Commission some thanks for their hard work.
I should have done that too. and I
Yeah, this
apologize.
is the first time a project like this has
Put a
been
lot of
done
work
in
into that.
Littleton.
Thank
So we had no local roadmap, and they, especially their chair, Linda Stein, put in a lot of time learning about how to get it done and getting the preservation deed completed. So I'd like them recognized too. Then you spoke a little bit about the cost of developer in projects that might have to give to an old building, and I certainly don't dispute that. But I hope that we don't just give up trying to save some of these links to Littleton's past. You know, I hope when you walk into the next building that's older than 1950, you don't see a stain or a broken board and say, got to tear it down. And I could kind of sense in your voice what you were thinking about future projects we have. because there's always ways to partner with developers or nonprofits to revitalize and reuse the buildings. We may have to do something creative, something that Littleton's never done before. And there are a number of unique projects in the Commonwealth between municipalities and development companies, nonprofits. There's been some great ones, big city like Waltham, but even the small Sunderland has a really great example of something they have done. We're going to see a huge transformation in the Common in the next decade. It's going to look like a new town. So I feel like we need to kind of be the caretakers for the historical properties in town. Everyone that comes to Littleton says there's this historic feel, this small town feel. And I think we really are going to have to pay attention to that in the future. Those of us who have lived here all our lives, we kind of have to pass on that feeling to people moving into town who don't have the ties to Littleton like we do. Our history, I will say it's not like Harvard's, which is in your face. You go to Harvard Center and it's there. Ours is a little more hidden, and it's going to become even more hidden with all the work up at uptown. So our oldness is kind of hidden. So I hope that with subsequent projects and subsequent properties that come up, we just don't have that tear it down mentality, and that we're open to saving some of Littleton's historic past. Thank you.
So I think the Historical Commission is on our agenda to come and speak at a meeting towards the end of February, one of the last meetings. And Carolyn, if you can either have them or if you can share with us some of those things you found, that would be very helpful. So thank you. We have time for one more if anyone else wants to speak. You have 2 minutes.
104 Foster Street. I think that Karen has made a really strong effort in bringing more public education to the fore through podcasts, through newsletter, but with, Facebook rumor mill being one of our only public forums for information, it's really unfortunate. And I think that this vote failed at the town meeting because of lack of information. And I think it failed by 3 votes. And I really wish that we could pause this process and put this up for revote, just like we were able to with the Webster property, with the MBTA, cultivate more public education, and then change the vote. And a lot of people can't attend meetings who have families who go to the town meetings and are learning about things for the first time. And I think that we're working hard to change that, but we need a better information disseminated out there. And I think we're really in a historical moment here. As a member of LCT with an emotional, I would call myself an emotional stakeholder, with being Sarah Doublet being in a butter to the orchard. This is a really potent, powerful property, and we're in a moment here that I just don't think we can let go. I know that everyone is very fatigued, and this has been a long process for the Orchard Working Group, for the Board of Select People, but I think it would be a mistake to rush into leasing this property. And I did have an interview with the MAPC this week, and they were incredibly open-hearted and willing to help and willing to hold open forums. And they actually felt a little in the dark about what was going on here in terms of this potential lease going forward. So I just ask that we pause and regroup, and I hope that we could consider revoting on this to sell, and that we have really wonderful potential buyers out there, including the NPI. Thank you.
So just for clarification on the MAPC, we made a conscious decision not to hold the MAPC forums while we were initiating the lease negotiations, because it's a conflict with the lease. We can't be holding a forum talking as if we wanted to sell it at the same time we're trying to negotiate in good faith a lease. So it was a conscious decision to hold off on the forums at the time. so that we weren't in that conflict. Make it short, please.
Kristen Kazokis, Cottage Way. Off of that, I think what it would have been great is, a lot of us didn't know that that was in your decision-making process. When you guys voted to go with Bransfield for the lease, you said December 15th was your deadline, then you extended to December 30th, and then it was no deadline, and we're kind of not knowing what's happening. So I think that's another component of just the communication of your process. I also just wanted to take off of the mention of the historical component. I listened in on your discussion in terms of the Shaker Lane School and all the other projects that are going on in town and wanting to compete with other towns about our development and what we're offering to bring people to town. But we have a lot already here. And the orchard, that land, the historical component, what it brings, it's a unique piece of property with a unique history, and nothing else can replicate that. So instead of worrying about competing so much with other towns, why don't we shine a light on what we offer as a town and attract the people that want to come and participate in what we're offering? Our rural community, our historical houses, the work that they're going to be working on in the common, everything else is coming together, and this orchard land is a gem for us to link the history to our future and where we want to go. You know, we might be building this big, huge school for all these kids, and if we're just kicking this lease down the road, have a great school, kids, but you're gonna have to deal with the orchard. You know, so let's bring their education to a wider sense and what we as a community can offer, not only to each other, but to the Commonwealth and to a greater purpose. Thank you.
Okay, Kristen. Okay, moving on, select board discussions. Contract with J. Dorenzo Company for King Street Commons Public Infrastructure.
Right, this is the winning proposer from the, is it 13 bids or 18 bids?
I think it's 17.
17 bids that we received for the infrastructure of 550 King Street.
Have you ever worked with them before?
No.
Is anybody?
They're pretty reputable.
Oh,
Yeah, I think actually they've worked, as my understanding is that TEC has worked with them before, so they have a good reputation in the area. Check's right.
So just for clarity, based on this letter, we were expecting the bids to come in at 3.2 million and it came in less. It was just for clarity with people reading the letter, because I was confused the first time I read it.
All right.
Right.
Actually 18 bidders.
18
Yeah,
bids.
it says,
yeah.
Jim and I were saying this is probably what the most amount of
Yeah.
bids we've seen come in. So a lot of interest in it.
I'm impressed you vetted them so quickly.
Hmm.
So. Anyone have any comments?
Can't wait. I trust y'all.
If you're comfortable with this company, that's the main thing.
Yeah, no, it's been vetted. To TEC, already knew them and did some legwork on their end as well.
There's actually a lot of reputable companies
Yes.
that
Oh, sure.
that were on the bid list.
I recognize, I just didn't recognize them. I don't know. I'm not in that.
Yeah, they do a lot of state work.
Move that the select board vote to authorize town administrator James Duggan to execute a contract with J. Dorenzo Company for the King Street Commons Public Infrastructure Project in the amount of $2,541,472.
Second?
Moved by Matthew, second by Karen. All those in favor?
Aye. It's the biggest number I've ever said.
No.
The biggest dollar figure I've ever said where there was real money being spent.
Oh,
Update on the charter committee process and select board to appoint a member to the charter committee.
Yeah, well, right now, as of this morning, the deadline is, I believe it's Wednesday of this week. So far we have in hand 12 applications.
Wow.
Great. Good news.
It was the podcast, actually.
Definitely the podcast.
Both people that watched. Thank you, Gary and Chuck. Yes, and this is for the appointment of select board voting member.
Who wants it?
Got any straws?
I guess I didn't realize this. I thought we were gonna see all of the applicants and then decide whether we were going to appoint a select board member. I didn't realize we were appointing somebody from the select board in advance of everyone else.
I thought when we discussed the process, we agreed that one of the members was going to be a select board member. Am I misremembering that?
I seem to
Yeah,
remember
you-
Gary wanting to do it.
This is a big commitment. I'm aware of it, and I know it's a tough thing to look out 18 months and say, you know, much time do we have? All the other subcommittees we're on, so I don't know. We have to see what we're actually charged with, but I almost would like to see the main part of having a select board member on there. Obviously, is the knowledge of a lot of municipality work and things like that, but we don't know what that list is. We don't know prior select board members. We don't.
Institutional knowledge.
Yeah, we don't know what's on that board. So to your point, it might behoove us to wait, but I don't know. Does that I don't know if we want to forfeit a member on the board.
The charge that I believe we settled on said the membership of the Charter Review Committee shall consist of 7 to 9 members. As determined by the select board membership shall include 1 member from the Board of Selectmen, 1 member from the Finance Committee. But then there's question marks.
Yeah,
after
there's
that.
question marks after each of those things.
No, I don't
It's
think
sort of
we-
like, it looks like we sort of.
No, I don't
They gotta
remember
tighten that
saying
up.
the finance. I thought we changed that because so we didn't want to require memberships from other committees.
Correct.
Yeah, I thought that, yeah.
So we did not say that there's definitely a member of any of the boards on.
We weren't being prescriptive.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. So perhaps we wait to review the applicants before we decide whether there's going to be a member, unless this group feels it's important to have 1 selectman.
Well, at the very least, somebody should be appointed to.
A liaison.
Yes, 100%.
You can't be a voting member if you're liaison.
Right.
That's fine.
I mean, I don't know that it matters whether there's a board member who's
As a
voting or
voting
not. But I'm willing to be, I don't have a strong opinion about it one way or the other.
Well, we could decide on the liaison, and then if we determine that maybe it would be better for
For them to be voting.
to be a voting member, then we can just change it.
Or we could go back, or we could go the other way and appoint
That's true too, actually. Yeah, it's probably better to
a member, and then if we just
change it to
feel like
liaison. If we have a bunch of strong candidates.
yeah, if we feel like the
Committee.
mix of knowledge and strengths and what, different people bring to the table.
We've put the charge forward. Is there anybody that really wants to be on the committee to help move along? I mean.
Yeah.
I mean, I know how important it is to the town and the outcome.
Yeah.
That's why, I wanted to do the draft and do the charter and things like that, but.
Yeah.
I second your nomination, Gary.
It's a.
I'll third it.
I don't have a problem being a liaison. I don't really want to be on the committee, right? I don't want to be, I go to enough meetings already. I don't want to be committed to going to 24 meetings in the next year for this. I think we'd be better off appointing a liaison and an alternate to go. Or that's the position I would take for myself. If someone else wants to sign up for it and can commit to going to the meetings, and I'm fine with that, but I personally don't think I could commit to going.
We could appoint, you appoint a member and the alternate.
Yeah, but the alternate can't vote. Unless we come up with some other arrangement where there's select board and an alternate.
Yeah.
That one of us can.
Transfer of powers.
Chairman, I found the charge that we actually posted. So the final version said the membership of the Littleton Charter Committee shall consist of 7 or 9 members as determined by the select board.
Thank you.
Period. Yeah. So we took out the question
So do
marks.
you want to wait? I don't want to give this away. I think I would like to see our comfort level with the committee.
With the makeup.
That's fair.
For municipality and governance and understanding. There's a huge impact here, and we all agree we want a diverse group.
Yep.
Some that don't have much knowledge of any municipality.
So
governance, but-
we have the control. We don't have to do anything until
Okay.
we're comfortable.
Yeah, so I'm glad we did change the language for that. So I'm not saying no to this because I
Yeah.
I do recognize the commitment to it. And, you know, we're in an election year, so what happens then? You know, when May, somebody else.
I mean, Chuck
So I
has,
think some of that-
because he's the only one that's got guaranteed the tenure.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay.
So, okay.
So,
We have it,
Tape-
we have it come back up on our next meeting.
Yeah.
Well, we're meeting next Monday to appoint the
Good
committee.
point, right, so
So at
that
that
could be,
meeting, we'll
it's part of the
decide,
mix, potentially.
at that meeting, we'll decide whether to appoint between 6 and 9 members of the public and
Okay.
whether we have a liaison or take one of those take membership. Okay.
You've already voted on 5C?
Yep.
Bring this limit.
I don't remember seeing anything.
Yeah, if we follow up on the dangerous dog stuff,
So on the dangerous dog stuff, I have, I didn't realize I had to do it at the time, but I have a form that I had to fill out, so it will be coming. I don't know if it needs wet signatures or not, so.
council.
I have it back from town council. They just sent it this afternoon, so it will you'll either get a DocuSign or a notice to come in and please sign. It's an incredibly complicated form to fill out. I thank Karen for her help because I couldn't understand the legal terms. So.
We go to the minute.
Yeah. I thought there was a lot to summarize and
Yeah.
they're excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a great job.
Summary.
This is extra big.
Yep.
So I move, any corrections or updates, anyone?
I'm good.
Move that the select board vote to approve the meeting minutes from the select board meeting on January 13th, 2025.
Second.
Moved by Matthew, second by Karen. All those in favor?
Aye. Move that we adjourn the January 27th, 2025 Littleton Select Board meeting at 8:19 PM, a new record.
Second.
Moved by Matthew, second by Karen. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Good night,
gentlemen.
Thank you.